The Central Valley grows more food than anywhere else in the U.S.
As people who live here, we know the pride that comes with this land. Being known as the fruit basket of America, with some of the most fertile soil in the world, brings in billions and produces food that feeds people across the globe. But the question now is whether we trust the future of where it's going. Welcome to Farming the Future, AI in the Central Valley. For the next 30 minutes, we're looking at 3 key pillars shaping agriculture. Water and irrigation, for instance, new technology and robotics, and the values that have guided Central Valley farming for generations. You'll hear from farmers, Fresno State researchers, and industry leaders about how those forces could shape the future of how we grow our food and where we get our water. On the corner of Barstow and Chestnut, next to the Jordan College Sheep Unit at Fresno State, students and researchers are trying to solve an age-old problem in California.
We don't have enough water. That's where the pressure's coming from, so everybody feels it.
Inside Fresno State Center for Irrigation Technology, researchers are testing the same equipment used on farms up and down the Central Valley. The goal? Make sure new irrigation technology actually works.
This lab's designed to test the same equipment that the farms use. So we're basically a third-party validation that this stuff works the way it's supposed to.
The lab also helps develop new products designed to use water more efficiently, a critical issue for California.
So if somebody's unsure if some widget is working the way it's supposed to, we have no conflict of interest.
By testing new tech, researchers say they can help farmers adopt innovation faster.
There's always been lots of innovation in California, so there's lots of new stuff, right? And we're here to help validate the new stuff.
When you talk about new stuff, AI is a big part of new stuff.
Oh yeah.
How do you think that will change what is being done here in the next few years?
It represents a pretty big challenge for us in terms of testing. AI, in not all, but many cases, AI is a black box. So we can't open it up and figure out what's going on.
But even testing that technology comes with its own set of challenges.
Fresno State's got an amazing 1,000-acre farm, so we can test it here, but it's still expensive, and that's part of the challenge.
So while researchers work to figure out how to affordably test AI systems, students and professors are also building their own tools designed to help farmers make better decisions about water.
So we are creating an app, a mobile app, where the farmer can go in the field, take a picture, and the app will tell them, you have underwater or overwater the plant.
Jordan College students are also using AI models to study how crops grow and how water is best used.
We get to use it to calculate variables and other methods that help us understand what might be better for irrigation, might be better for crops.
In the Central Valley, farmers are making critical decisions every day, what to grow and how to grow it with less water. Now, artificial intelligence is part of that process, but can it match generations of experience? For that answer, we're going to Firebaugh, California.
This has been my life's work. You know, I grew up in the fields with my father.
For Joe Del Bosque, this isn't just land.
I love to come out and spend time in the fields, take a walk through here, connect with these trees.
It's everything he knows.
My family used to come over here in the 30s and 40s, migrating to this area, following the crops.
Passed down for generations. Today, he continues his family's farming legacy in Firebaugh, growing melons, almonds, and cherries on the same land that shaped him.
I worked there myself as a young boy.
But farming here has never been easy.
It takes about 100 to 150 people to pick this orchard. That's another challenge for farmers in the Central Valley, is to have enough people to handpick these kind of crops.
Right now, everything comes down to just one thing: water.
We're only going to get 15% of our water supply. That means we don't have enough water for all of our crops.
Forcing farmers to make up the difference wherever they can.
We also have to go out and look for water we can buy from others to try to supplement that very small supply.
And that's where Del Bosque says new farming technology is starting to come into the conversation.
Now you can use all sorts of technology, automation, AI to pick out the cherries, to separate out the undesirable ones, or separate by size or color.
Like a high-tech sorting system, separating every cherry in seconds. But that kind of tech, even in its earliest stages, doesn't come cheap.
A robotic weeder may cost over $1 million. That's not easy for a small farmer like myself.
So what happens when a lifetime farmer asks a robot for advice?
That work for you?
We asked ChatGPT, what should be grown here to save water?
Small grains, not economical. They suggest no almonds, and that's what we grow most of out here.
So what would you give it a grade out of A, B, C, D, or F?
I would say C.
Okay.
They got some right, they got some wrong.
Because for farmers like Joe, this isn't just data. It's a lifetime of learning this land.
It goes back to this old saying is, a good farmer is a farmer who can grow a good crop. A successful farmer is a farmer growing the right crop. And grains are not the right crop.
Growing the right crop, as Del Bosque said, that's what everything comes down to. Now, AI and robotics are stepping in to help farmers do that work. At the World Agritech Summit in San Francisco, innovators from around the world are bringing Silicon Valley into the field. Here's what the future of farming could look like.
This is what farming in California looks like. At the World Agritech Conference in San Francisco, ag robots are becoming reality.
And what it does is identify what's a crop and what's a weed. And then from there, it makes actionable sprays on precisely on where it's needed.
It's called precision agriculture, and companies like Nico Robotics are using AI to target problems farmers have been dealing with for generations.
Labor being difficult to get and challenging and expensive, it is solving a huge need for growers.
Others are taking it even further, building robots that work side by side with farm workers.
So we build a robot that becomes Wall-E or R2-D2 from Star Wars.
Working 24/7.
To think small people-scale vehicle driving alongside people, augmenting people and doing things that people don't want to do.
And learning as they go.
So hauling, towing, mowing, spraying, and patrolling while learning to do more.
But here's the challenge. This technology only works if farmers actually use it.
They load it onto their truck bed and they come trundling into the Central Valley and then try to sell it to a grower.
But what works in a lab doesn't always work in the field. More often than not, farmers say,
wow, this thing not only does not work on my particular crop, does not solve a problem that I have.
And that's exactly what the California AgTech Alliance is trying to do, bridge the gap between Silicon Valley and the valley that feeds it.
The grower has to be at the center, and that's really at the core of our innovation programs.
Cutting costs, finding labor, and making every drop of water count.
The demand's there, the time is now, and AI is here.
This is Farming the Future, AI in the Central Valley. We're going to bring you inside a transformation happening right here at home, from the fields to the classroom to the cutting edge of AI. And tonight, well, this conversation comes on a day that hits close to home, Farm Workers Day, honoring the hands behind every harvest. As that work evolves, these are the people leading that change. Without further ado, let's meet our panel. We're joined by Ms. Hannah Johnson, a consultant focusing on grower-led innovation. Next, we have Joe Del Bosque, a Fireball melon grower. He has decades of experience in the field, and you saw him earlier. Hey, Joe. Dr. Stephen Choi, he is an AI program coordinator and professor at Fresno State. And we also have Kevin Woodard joining us tonight. He's an agriculture instructor of 28 years, teaching at both Fresno State and Reedley College. We want to thank all of you for being here tonight and helping us break down what is going to be a very impactful conversation. Thank you. All right, so let's begin with the story we just saw at the World Agritech Conference. Joe, I'll start with you on this one to kick us off because you and I both went to this conference. We talked about it on the phone, and there was one thing that stood out at this conference, that growers and AI startup companies, they got to start talking. How do we start doing that?
We definitely need to communicate because they don't know much about agriculture and we don't know much about them. But we know that they have some brilliant ideas that they could put together. And so we need to interface some way. And I think that that could be done through organizations like Fresno State or the researchers that are out there, and also the extension service, the farm advisors. So we need to bring them together, see how their ideas can help us find solutions for what we need.
Absolutely. And you know, Joe, we'll back up here a little bit because Hannah, I want to know what you think about this. When ag folks hear the word AI, red alarm bell starts to come up. I want to know what you think about that.
It's so interesting to me because I think a lot of the gap and the disconnect is around the language itself. Ag and early forms of AI have been in California agriculture for decades. We just didn't call it that.
Gotcha.
But we were using soil moisture sensors. We were using GPS and yield projections. We were using irrigation models, all based on really early forms of AI. We didn't call it that. So there's fear around the words.
Okay, and kind of what Joe was mentioning too is, well, let's stop that fear and start talking about it. And hopefully that starts with conversations like this today. In terms of from a storytelling perspective, Hannah, when you're talking with your clients, are they kind of scared to use the word AI too, even though it's been around for a while, like you said?
I think people are very nervous that AI is going to take away jobs in every industry in this country, and so there is fear there. But we are already benefiting from AI in agriculture, and I'll give you a few examples. One, we love the mandarins. They are perfect, they are tasty, the sugar content is right, and many of them are robotically sorted, which means these systems use computer imaging and machine learning to take between 10 and 100,000 pictures in a minute.
Wow.
In those pictures, they're identifying, is there visible damage? Is the sugar content right? And then they are making the decision, the machine is, to sort based on any of those issues. And then the good ones are going down the line and we're getting them at home. So AI is already being used. The consumer is just not, I think, as aware, and we're not calling it that.
Gotcha. Okay, new tech really is kind of the more comfortable word, it sounds like. So
I'll also just say, like, such a disconnect is how our food is grown and produced and when we buy it. And I think that's a thing we talk about all the time, that we wish everybody knew more of all the decisions that go into production and all that it takes to get us the nutritious food that we love and expect. That's a disconnect.
As somebody who just buys the food at the grocery store, hey, I appreciate you teaching us this because I didn't know that either. So thank you for sharing that, Hannah. You know, when we talk about the future of farming, of course, we're talking about new tech and AI and how it plays a role in that, but we can't leave out the next generation. Students right here at Fresno State, one of the top agriculture programs in the country, they're not just watching this shift, they're going to be leading it. And one of those students has a question for our panelists tonight. Here is Laura Moss.
How would you encourage farmers and agriculture students to get more involved with AI and try to network with computer science students, finding solutions that can benefit both areas?
Stephen, I'll start with you. When you hear a question like that, as somebody who's kind of leading the charge at Fresno State with AI, what do you think?
Well, I'll be kind of echoing what Joe has said earlier. It's very important that we need to come together. So in other words, students has to go out to the field, to the land, and understand what is the nature of the problem. And at the same time, the farmers can help the students, details about the problem. So it is so crucial that the maybe university or some common marketplace where the both parties can come together and understand the needs and the problems of each other. So maybe we can host something like hackathon or some kind of event or something to increase the awareness and the interest among the student body. At the same time, the farmers can also join in and provide their needs so that we can all come together and really work on the problem. So.
It sounds like there's a need for collaboration from the AI startup company level to then the university level to the farmer grower in the middle level. So we got to get together.
Get together.
Yeah.
Very important. Very important.
And Kevin, I'm curious what you think about this too, because you've been teaching ag business for what, 28 years? I mean, what is the main thought here of our students in your classrooms and your environment, are they up to speed on how quickly this ag tech is changing?
Well, there's a misconception that, you know, because they grew up in the technology age compared to what we're used to, that they know about technology. And unless it's on their phone, they really don't know much about it. And even, you know, things like ChatGPT and those are an assistant to producing a final product, but they really don't understand the true power of the technology and how it can be integrated into what they're going to do within their careers.
And going back and sticking with you a little bit, Kevin, I want to hear from you with your experience in teaching agriculture tech in the last 28 years. How different is your first lesson 28 years ago to what you're teaching students about agriculture today?
Yeah, when I first started teaching, one of the expectations was that the teachers within the ag program would have access to a computer, a desktop computer. And now we're carrying around $2,000 machines that are far more technologically advanced. I tease with the students a bit because when it came to math, you know, I'd say, oh, well, I'd just use a calculator. And what the teacher always say, are you going to carry a calculator with you the rest of your life? And that's just reality. That's the only thing these students know. So it's truly making those connections, as we've all said, and allowing, especially college is a great place for students to get to know one another and know people that are outside of their normal circle. So having those computer science students working with the agriculture students and working with the other business students, that really is probably the sweet spot that we need to get to.
Right. And you know, I'll mention this to all of you. When I was interviewing Laura, one of the computer science and ag students, she said, I'm helping make an app for ag students, but I'm having a hard time reaching the ag students who wants to take this project on with me to find a grower this app would work for and to do the thing collaboratively. So really, again, going back to that from a student level. We've gone through the panelists line here. We've heard from everybody at this point, but here's the reality. While AI is shaping what's next, farmers across the valley are still facing challenges today, aside from affording new technology. And for that, we turn to you, the viewers at home. We have a poll to share with you today. What do you think is hurting Valley farmers the most right now? Is it A, water shortages, B, rising costs, C, labor shortages, or D, global trade and tariffs? Right now, 57% of our viewers say that water shortages are the biggest thing hurting Valley growers right now. Joe, I'll go to you. Our resident farmer here on the panel, would you agree with that?
Water is a huge challenge. Our supply is so restricted that we have to use every technology that we can to get the most out of it, and we have. But where do we go next? Okay, how do we get even further efficiency with our water? And I think that technology and maybe even AI can help us so that we are refining even further the amount of water that we need on the crop at the right time so that we get the maximum crop with the least amount of water. And you know, AI is going to help us. We as farmers, sometimes we're a little bit reluctant to accept that because we're afraid of the unknown, and we're afraid to risk our necks out there on something that we don't know. But AI is only as good as the data that you put into it, and if we can put good data into it, data that we know as farmers, then I think we will have more confidence in what AI can do for us.
Stephen, you're nodding. I'm looking to you and asking you, what would you say to a farmer who's reluctant and scared of the unknown with coming across an AI software that could maybe help them save some water?
I think Joe really made a good comment on it. I think this, the fear or the concern, it's certainly out there, and the technology itself has some limitations with the hallucination and other things. But I think it's given that what's happening around the world, I think it's a good a chance for farmers to put their resource and try this technology. And technology has been proving pretty well for the last 3 years, and where this technology is pretty much changing the entire universe. So I would say there is an increased more of the secure and trust level with this technology, and with the things that we have said earlier, if we can come together and use that technology and leverage it to address our problems and the needs, I think we can come out at the best end for all of us. Yeah.
I also think it's a huge opportunity for the next generation, for your students, because one of the biggest barriers is we are interested in this tech, it's at a price point that we like, we know it's a solution that we're looking for, and no one on our team can own it or really know how to operate it as efficiently as possible and get it into our operation. Like, that is a huge gap. And I think if your students and the next gen want to rise to that occasion and take advantage of that opportunity, really operationalizing it and having a tech point person on staff is super needed.
What an exciting time that we even get to have this conversation about, hey, you guys should start telling your students about this, or this is what we've been seeing, what works, what doesn't work. Two things I think we've been saying a lot is trust and water throughout the last few minutes. And so let's talk a little bit more about water, because water, that challenge here in the Central Valley specifically, that's not anything new. These challenges have been shaping agriculture for decades. Speaking of decades, the first farm bill in the U.S. was passed back in 1933, a key part of FDR's New Deal. Nearly a century later, today's version still has the same goal: to stabilize the agricultural economy and protect farmers' livelihoods. Here's what Representative Jim Costa had to say about the 2026 Farm Bill.
The inconsistency and the lack of a farm bill certainly is having impact, especially when you look at the economic tariffs that have distorted markets and prices that are critical for California farmers, ranchers, and dairymen.
So you just heard from California Representative Jim Costa. Once again, this farm bill includes a provision. It says that it could cover up to 90% of the cost for farmers to adopt AI and precision technology. But what farmer can actually afford that final 10%, and who gets left behind in this? For this question, I turn to you, Hannah. What would you say?
So if the Farm Bill gets passed as is, the EQIP program that the NRCS manages will reimburse farmers for up to 90% of the cost of precision ag equipment. This is a mouthful, but I'm going to keep going. Precision ag equipment that can be tied to 3 conservation practices. So input reduction, water reduction, and improved soil health. There's a lot of paperwork on the front end. It's also reimbursement based. So you're paying out the 100% of the price tag, and then you're going to wait to be reimbursed up to 90%. Sometimes that takes a long time. So there's a gap and probably an access issue for those that can't bite off the price tag. And that gets in the way of small and medium producers really taking advantage of it.
You're saying how long it could take to be reimbursed. How long are we talking? A long time, potentially.
Months, year.
Wow. And you said in the story that we did together when I was interviewing you in Fireball on your farm that cuts out a lot of smaller farms who can't afford newer technology. I mean, do you agree with this, Joe?
A lot of the new technology, like say automation, is very expensive, and it's a huge investment for farmers. Easier for a larger farmer than for a smaller farmer. We look at things and see how they pencil out for our operation, and if we can't afford it, we can't use it. Unless if somebody else invests in it and can do work for multiple farmers. That's a possibility. So we have to look at how we can do it, but we know that we're going to have to use some of these new technologies. As an organic farmer, we can't use herbicides, so we have to look at technology to be able to do weed control for us that will help us cut down on our hand weeding, which is really very expensive too.
I'll turn to our AI tech here lead. Stephen, is this leveling the playing field or widening the gap?
Well, I think it's going to hurt the small farms, as Joe has mentioned, because on any given new technology, there is a learning curve. So which means that the person has to invest the time and the resource in order to really learn how to operate the technology or the equipment. So it's going to take some time. And for the time that person is not able to do the things that he or she used to do, yet spending time learning the new technology, there's a loss there. There's a loss. So how does this 90% cover 10% the person has to come up? I don't know how that, that's not going to work out pretty much as a very transparent way. Yeah.
Kevin, do you think your students are ready to have some of these conversations?
Yeah, I think we've already had quite a bit of these same conversations. The big thing that comes with new technology, I mean, we have to understand that farmers are we're price takers. We don't get to set our price, and if our costs are too high, we just raise the price of whatever it is we produce. So when you're dealing with that type of a market, those decisions that you make today are going to make changes rather rapidly, and to be able to get an equipment loan to be able to purchase some of this equipment up front, and then hope that we're reimbursed on the back end, it really puts a lot of stress. I think that what we really have to focus on is the cottage industries that are going to grow up around the use of this technology. Like Stephen was saying, that maybe it's not the farmer that's out there working with the technology itself. Maybe it's a consultant that's brought in, no different than a farm advisor or somebody like that. That's their primary responsibility, is to kind of be that bridge between the grower and the technology, and to be teaching on site. So I think that's another opportunity for the future for our students, is filling that position.
Fantastic. We're making up new roles here that don't even exist quite yet, but way to think forward on how we can kind of fill these gaps and come together for our students specifically and create maybe new jobs that wouldn't exist 28 years ago. Guys, we keep talking about one thing, it's water. And when we talk about policy, it all comes down to that in the Central Valley. And that's where weather also plays a critical role. Chief Meteorologist Chris Kuiper will join us now to break down what we're seeing and what it could mean for farmers this season. Chris.
All right, let's take a little moment here to talk about our water situation, how we've done this winter, and maybe a little look ahead towards what we might be doing next winter. First off, this winter seems like a situation of missed opportunities. We started off so wet. About January 1st, we were double our normal average rainfall for the season. We were at 200% of normal. Well, unfortunately, it hasn't rained much since then, and now we sit at about 100% or 103% of normal. We've at least we're not below average. That's always a good thing. And the reservoirs right now, they're doing pretty good as well. Most of them at or even a little above average for this time of the year, so that's certainly good news. It's certainly been hot lately, hasn't it? This March is going to go down as our hottest March ever across most of California. In Fresno, we're averaging almost 80 degrees for a high temperature in the month of March. Normally, we average in the 60s for high temperatures. So the warmest March on record for us. What has that done? That has melted the snowpack in the Sierra Nevada awfully quickly, and that's why the reservoirs are doing so good right now and full of snow melt. Just tracking the snow here at the Central Sierra Nevada Snow Lab up there towards Donner Summit. You see the snow just melting almost an inch a day or so over the past couple of weeks. And what's left? Now, unfortunately, not a whole lot. The snowpack now sits at only 22% of average for this time of the year. In the southern Sierra Nevada, where we are, about 39% of average. To the north, 7% is what's left of the snowpack. Not much up there in the mountains to come rushing on down. What about next winter? Well, we have an El Nino potentially setting up. That always means rain, right? Not always. Last time we had a big El Nino, like this big El Nino we may be having here this upcoming winter, the last time we had that about 10 years ago, it was a bust. We didn't get much rain. This is a map showing rainfall above normal or below normal. The yellow and orange is below normal rainfall. The green is above normal. And that winter, a lot of California actually ended up below normal as far as the rain goes back in 2015, 2016, despite a strong El Nino out there. So we are heading to El Nino, but that's no guarantee of heavy rain, unfortunately, coming up this next winter.
Joe, I'll turn to you. Blind reaction. What do you think seeing that?
Well, water is a little complicated in California, but it's extremely important. And you never know what you're going to have. This year, despite pretty normal precipitation, the reservoirs, as we saw, all above normal, we're only getting 20% of our supply. That's not very much. Why? Because we're missing one component, and that's the snowpack. Snowpack is an essential part of our water supply. It's an alternative form of storage, actually, that stays up there until we need it. And so we're going to have to struggle here this year with a 20% water supply. We're going to use all the technology we have available, but even with that, with a 20% water supply, at least a third of our farm is going to go unplanted.
Wow.
Because we just don't have enough water, even if our whole farm is in drip irrigation. Even that 30% that we're not farming has drip irrigation in it, but there's just not enough water to do it.
Stephen, can you think of any kind of AI software where it could help farmers in this kind of situation?
Yes, certainly. So we have many sensors, for example, soil moisture sensors, Internet of Things. So we do have the technology. So it's just a matter of connecting it to machine learning models. And we have many machine learning models that allow us to predict the level of moisture, humidity and all that. And it can also do it on the real time. So I think we have the models and technology that are available. It's just a matter of connecting it and just applying it to specific contexts or the need of the user. Yeah.
Kevin, I'm curious, do your lessons in agriculture kind of coincide with whatever season it is in California, albeit wet, dry, depending on where we're at in the season?
Yeah, one of the big things, I mean, there's seasonality, but when we look at the cost structures, obviously the energy situation, not only does it take the fuel to get the product to the market, just the amount of fuel it takes to, we're pulling groundwater and we're having to utilize extra equipment in the field and those types of things. So the students are very aware of water being an issue, but I think, again, like we've mentioned, we need to focus on finding ways to make those contacts and those connections with not only from an agriculturalist point of view, but also making those connections with those students across campus, and some type of an incubator type program where we can bring those students together to collaborate. Again, because they don't know what our problems are, and we don't know what their problems are, and until we're able to communicate those, it's going to be an uphill battle.
You talk about connecting students with people. I think of Hannah being a consultant, being able to talk to students about what she does. I mean, just a little bit, Hannah, can you go into what an agriculture consultant does and how you kind of touch AI in your day-to-day?
I'm so glad you asked. Yeah, and something I wanted to bring up earlier. So I convene the Industry Advisory Board for the California Ag Tech Alliance, a project that was mentioned early on. And what we did was bring 30 farm workers and 30 farmers and workforce organizations together that represent the most productive commodities and counties in California, and said, what are your biggest problems? And then we found all the through lines per commodity, how they really show up. And we're writing a document that the CSU system, the UC system, Western Growers, CDFA has all agreed to use, that says, if you're building a thing, here's how it needs to work. This is the problem it's addressing. Here's how it needs to cost. Here's how it needs to operate in the field. And that's going to be ready over the next few months. And I think that's going to be a game changer for both the education side, to the investor side, to the startup side.
This seems like a quick fix to this whole conversation.
You guys, we're done. We're done.
That's it. Hey, funny enough, we are nearing our final question. And so what I'd like to do is go down the line, starting with you, Kevin, working our way down to Hannah. Each and every one of you, I'm going to ask, what's one thing that AI cannot replace in agriculture? Kevin?
Passion. Passion is something that keeps people doing what they love, regardless of those outside pressures that are trying to keep them down. So I definitely think passion is required to be an agriculturalist and to get us through this great industry.
Stephen?
I would say two things. The first thing is the ethics based on the context, because the ethics relating to the safety and all the other issues are very important. And I guess another thing is the farmer's intuition, because although machine learning models are based on patterns and how the data present all these different angles, the farmer's intuition is really something that we cannot quantify
Yes.
in numbers and the things. So that's going to be a very challenging if it's not be able to do. I think a farmer like Joe, he has some more to provide than just data sets. So that's just something that I don't think is going to be, it's going to take some long time, I would say, at least, yeah.
I think it's going to take a while before we replace these. All of our fresh fruits and vegetables are picked by hand. And I think it's going to be a while before we can replace those, because the American consumer, he or she wants a tomato that's perfect in shape, perfect in color, and not a single blemish on it. No bruise, no cuts, nothing on it. And that's going to be difficult to do with a machine. So not only do they want a tomato that looks good, they want a tomato that tastes good. You can grow tomatoes that can be harvested by machine, but they're going to be smashed and put in a can. That's a different tomato than the one that they're going to find and they expect to find on their store shelf.
Right. Hannah.
I grew up in ag, and AI will never, and now having been on the side of innovation, AI will never replicate or replace the relationships throughout the entire supply chain, throughout every part of the education process, to your PCA, to your provider, to your supervisors and farm workers. That's never going to go away. And it's what keeps the industry moving.
Thank you all so much for being here and sharing your perspective. It means the world to us. Of course, as is obvious, but agriculture is the foundation of this valley. We got to be having these conversations more. So I'm truly so grateful that you made the time to join us here today. We want to thank all the farmers and laborers for doing what they do every day, and the AI engineers we spoke with and experts who shared their lived experience. And of course, you joining us at home, joining the conversation. This has been our KMPH Fox 26 News Town Hall Special, Farming the Future, AI in the Central Valley. We'll continue to have more conversations about what matters most to our farmers and how AI is evolving. I'm Madison McKay, and we hope you'll join us at 10.